Forrest Moretti here, and this is the second video in a series where I'm explaining how polio is not a naturally occurring disease, but in fact is a man-made disease. In the previous video, I talked about how polio never existed until the 1800s. I showed you how polio couldn't have suddenly appeared because of an abrupt genetic change that would have required thousands of humans from different countries all over the world to have expressed the same genetic shift. We also talked about how there's no way 3 different polioviruses could have mutated at the same time in a way they all cause the same symptoms. Because of this, we know that polio is a man-made disease. The question is, if polio is a man-made disease, what did we make that caused polio? Real quick, remember that the poliovirus had apparently coexisted peacefully with human beings for hundreds, if not thousands of years. The poliovirus was everywhere. Everyone caught it at some time in their life. We just didn't know about it because its symptoms looked like just another cold. But something changed in the 1800s. Several things changed, actually. A couple of inventions, advancements, and cultural shifts that accidentally turned this innocuous disease into a killer. One of the first problems, cutting-edge medicine of that era developed an obsession with mercury and arsenic as treatments for nearly everything. Babies were given mercury-containing teething powder. Pregnant women with morning sickness were given arsenic to drink, all by well-intentioned, well-educated doctors. You can look through medical guides from that era, and there isn't a single health condition they wouldn't try to fix by prescribing mercury or arsenic. It was everywhere. I can't emphasize it enough. This wasn't some fringe treatment that a few quacks practiced. This was standard medical practice for about any illness you could possibly come down with. At the same time, chemistry really began to come into its own, and they focused much of their newfound discoveries on agriculture, specifically pesticides, chemicals that could be sprayed on fruits, vegetables, even animals to help farmers grow more efficiently with less work and less damaged crops. As it turned out, these pesticides were not good for human health in a number of ways. They didn't know this at the time, and as a result, these new chemicals were sprayed everywhere on nearly everything. They were thought to be completely safe. An especially nasty substance called lead arsenate was created toward the late 1800s and was applied everywhere to help control moths and other critters that were damaging fruit. Lead arsenate is a combination of lead and arsenic and was popular because the poison they'd been using, called Paris green, wouldn't stick to fruits and vegetables very well. You'd have to apply multiple coats of it to maintain protection. This new invention, lead arsenate, on the other hand, stuck really well to whatever you sprayed it on, even after it rained. You can imagine lead arsenate was really popular amongst farmers. Spray it once or twice and it was locked onto their apples and other produce, even after they tried to wash it off. You can imagine this was not good for a child's health. With mercury and arsenic being employed by doctors everywhere, and with lead arsenate and Paris green being sprayed with absolutely no concern for human health on vegetables, fruits, and livestock, you can see why people in the late 1800s began to get sick. By the way, this is why you see a huge spike in sanitariums, asylums, and fainting rooms during this time period. It's all related to the increase in these toxic chemicals everywhere. If any of this sickness involved paralysis, which it often did, they'd call it acute poliomyelitis of the anterior horn, which later became shortened to polio. Something very important was happening at the same time. Animals were also getting polio. They were suddenly coming down with paralysis, often deadly, in the exact same outbreaks as humans. Strange, no? Health officials would send tissue samples of the animals off to laboratories where their spinal cord would be examined under a microscope, and guess what? The labs would confirm it. The animals had polio. But there was a problem. They didn't know it at the time, but animals can't get polio. Towards the end of the 1800s, animals were getting sick from the chemicals just like the humans. They just called it polio. Now, I know what you're thinking. Right now, you're thinking, I'm saying that all along polio was just pesticide poisoning. Certainly, some of what they thought was polio was actually mercury or arsenic or lead arsenate, causing people to become sick, even paralyzed. That was definitely the case with most of the animals, but that wouldn't explain everything. And I want you to understand everything. Remember the 3 different polioviruses? They actually did seem to be capable of causing paralysis. You could inject them into a monkey's spinal cord, and the monkey would most likely develop paralysis. But there was something else that they didn't understand the significance of. And this is really important. One of the most important things to understand. It wasn't just those 3 polioviruses. There were other viruses beside the polio ones. All of them had recently gained the ability to cause paralysis. How? The medical books won't tell you. Wikipedia doesn't know either. I'm Forrest Moretti, and I'm going to explain how in the next episode.